Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Baltimore Guys. I'm your host, Basile. Joining me today is Air Force vet, member of About Face, which helps former and current military members with PTSD, and also Veterans for Peace organization, which focuses on peace work in the U.S. and around the world. Joining me is Jamie Kwebetchou. Jamie, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy to be here. It's my first podcast, so I'm excited.
Before you even got into the Air Force, what was the motivation for joining the military?
Yeah, it's kind of a deep question because I was born into the military, like industrial complex, like most people probably in the United States. But for me, my father worked for Northrop Grumman, my mom worked for the VA, and they had really good paying jobs, and they seemed like to really enjoy what they were doing. And I always believed that the military was a force for good. I bought into and believed all the 9/11 propaganda, and I was very much what I call a neoliberal back then. Like, I believed in the Democratic Party and the whole hope and change that was supposed to come with the Barack Obama administration. And for me, it came to a time where I was 23, I was in college, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I'm looking at life differently. Like, I had a friend of mine who passed away in a car crash, and then I started to realize that life is really short, and like, what's the meaning of everything? And I realized that the military may be an option for me, but I was kind of looking for like the sign to see if it was the right decision, because it was a big step to make. And
a big commitment and everything.
Well, yeah, a big, huge commitment. But the idea was always there. And I had a friend of mine who was drunk, and then I got in the car with him, and we were driving down a dark road and at like maybe 50 miles an hour, and he lost control of the car, and I was like, oh man, this is it. I'm gonna go out just like my friend. But luckily he managed to get control of the vehicle, and we didn't die. Like, we managed to get home safe, and I was like, wow, that was a near-death experience. And I realized, all right, that's like a sign. Like, I almost just died. Like, life has to mean something. I have to do something that matters to me. And it's not about money. It's not about any of that. Like, all of that's irrelevant. And then I met, that summer, I met a group of young people that were from Russia, and they showed me a whole nother perspective, and we had a great time. I showed them around, and they were like, hey, if you ever want to come visit us, like, you can. And I was like, you know what, I think that's going to be the move. I'm going to go to Russia, and then I'm going to go into the Air Force basic training, and then I'm going to come back here, and life's just going to be awesome. And 2016, that was kind of the year all that happened. Like, April, I went over to Russia. That was an amazing, transformative experience. Came back here, went to my sister's graduation, and then went to see some friends, said goodbye, and then Memorial Day weekend flew out to San Antonio. And I was in Lackland the whole entire time for 8 months. My tech school was right across the street. I was security forces, which is basically like military police. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was just quite a transformative experience for me, because when I went in to do the ASVAB in August of 2015, I was just driving up to Pennsylvania just saying, see what happens. Like, I didn't really study much for this test. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like, and then everything worked out. They were like, oh yeah, you did all right. Like, how about security forces? And I was like, it apparently worked with like my personality test on there, which they make Air Force personnel do. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, sure, why not? Like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I told my parents. My dad didn't really agree with it. My mom, she wasn't really supportive of it. I mean, she wasn't happy about it, but she was supportive of it. Like, they both were very, very supportive of it, although they didn't agree with it, because they kind of knew like what the military was about. My dad being, an engineer, and my mom working for the VA, so she's heard like all the
jobs.
My mom's heard all the horror stories, and I remember talking to a lot of the veterans from the Vietnam era, from the VA, when they used to have work parties. But at the end of the day, I don't regret my decision for joining. I'm glad I did. It was a very, very transformative experience, and now I know a whole bunch of amazing people from organizations like About Face and Veterans for Peace and VOI, and just really happy for that whole experience, that I got to live through something like that and come out relatively unscathed. But the whole experience was quite transformative, and it's hard for me to really pinpoint why I joined. I think it was just you know, you live in the world that we live in today. You're a male and you get trapped in all the social engineering, and then you just kind of say, you know what, I want to see if this is true. And, you know, I'm one of those like kinesthetic type learners where I got to go and like learn something the hard way, because people told me not to go into the military, but I was like, maybe that was just your experience. Maybe my experience will be different, which it was. It definitely was different. But at the same time, you know, I get what a lot of people were talking about before then, especially my parents who told me not to join, but I didn't listen and I wanted to do it. And yeah, it's kind of, I just went because life is short, and if you want to do something, just do it.
So with your time in the military, at what point did your perspective change, I guess, on the world and how the U.S. works? And because for those who don't know, you recently were in Philly, and you guys were protesting George Bush, who received the Liberty Medal from Joe Biden for his quote-unquote commitment to veterans. And many would argue that's the biggest joke out there.
Oh, yeah.
So could you just talk about how your time in there, at what point was there a change in, like, this is the thing to do, to, like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, so surprisingly, it didn't really, like, happen fully, like, overnight, which a lot of people kind of, like, think, like, you know, people have these conscious shifts. Like, when we look at, like, the old anti-war veterans, like, we kind of think everybody just protested the Vietnam War overnight, but it slowly happens, like, gradually. And I think for me, like, the first kind of, like, whoa, like, kind of, like, scratch on the record was, like, when I was done with basic, which I actually, like, surprisingly enjoyed. Like, I really enjoyed Air Force basic training. It was a good time, and I had some good guys in there. And then tech school for me was kind of like the big wake-up call, because it was like, this is what the job you're going to be doing. Like, this Air Force basic training is like a general thing that everybody in the Air Force goes through, but like security forces is like, this is like your actual like job. Like, this is what you're going to be doing while you're in the military. And that was kind of like the first wake-up call, because I remember like going through like the first week of that training and just going, what the fuck is this? Like, law enforcement, oh my god, it's law enforcement. They don't really help people. They say, hey, listen to me or I will inflict bodily harm or death on you. And it's just, wow, like, it was just such a wake-up call for me, because I didn't really like put two and two together. I always thought I was a smart guy, but I kind of didn't really put the dots together. And then it really was slowly like just snowballing when a couple of days later, one of our instructors said, the only way you'll be able to like get used to doing this job is if you know, can laugh at a 12-year-old girl getting raped. And I was just like, okay, what the fuck? Like, you really have to become a total dehumanizing person to become a police officer.
The stuff.
But I was just like, I'm not one of those people who can be, you know, just dehumanizing to people. And like, I actually care about people, and I thought police actually help people. But I didn't want to, like, you know, get out of it, because I was already like halfway done through the training, and I was like, I gotta keep going with it. But I got in like a pretty dark place while I was down there. I felt pretty lonely, and the first month was pretty tough. Like, it was really difficult, but then I met some friends and we ended up having like a good connection. And then you realize, like, that's the thing, like, we have this common bond with people when you go through something like that in the military, and it doesn't matter where you're from. It's like you're in this shit together, and it's like, yo, I feel you, like, let's be here for each other and help each other out. And yeah, I met some really, really good guys there. Luckily, they were all from Texas, so they had trucks, and we were able to like head out of there, and we would go to Austin and just have a great time seeing Texas, and shot guns, which was pretty crazy, because I used to be one of those people that used to enjoy shooting weapons, and then shot weapons in the Air Force, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm never touching a firearm again after that. And it was just insane how powerful some of these weapons are that they give to like 19 like 18-year-old kids. I'm just like, holy shit, this is insane. And the whole experience was just pretty traumatic. But I think what really hit me at the end of tech school was when I graduated, was the election, or not the election, but when Trump's victory was announced in 2016. I was just like, holy shit, like, this man is the commander-in-chief, and like, the day I'm graduating, getting the hell out of here, is the day this guy gets elected president. I'm just like, what is going on? And then I got home and I felt so different. Like, I was like, I don't connect with anybody here anymore. I need to be away from everybody. I even felt kind of dangerous. I was like, I just went through like, you know, like 6 months of like intense ass like training. Like I was like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with being around regular people. And I was like, I need to get out of here. So luckily I was in the Guard. So I was like able to go back home and like still process everything and like try to like become a normal person again. Right. And then like only have to deal with the military 2 days out of the month. But little did I know, we had this thing called I think it was like OJT training. That's what they called it. And when you get back from your tech training, you have to go work at your base for another 2 months. And I was like, fuck. So I was like,
I tried to get away. Now you bring me back.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. And like the base, I actually enjoyed my base. There was nice people, and it's the Guard. It's so much different from active duty. So it was like, okay, like I don't mind this. And I had night shifts. So I was able to like just like chill most of the time, and everybody was really cool. But then I was just like there's something in me that's telling me like I gotta really like find like the answers to like what I went through, why, and what the hell is going on in the world. How is Trump president? And I started putting a lot of pieces together, and I realized the best thing for me to do was to travel. So immediately after my 2 months training was over, I started doing some serious traveling. I'd come back, do my Guard training, go away, and a lot of people were like, oh, is it like vacation? It's like, no, I don't really take vacations. Like I'm traveling to like experience the world and like life and like look for answers and find a better version of myself and like other people around the planet. And
yeah, that's a misconception people have. Like they always think like, oh, you're only traveling because it's vacation time.
Yeah, no.
It's like, no, there's a purpose to it.
Yeah, my idea of vacation is not having anything to do with and sleeping in my bed all day. Like that is a vacation. But what really hit me was when I went to Europe for the summer, and I had like the entire 2 months off. So I was there from like June up until August. And this was summer 2015, and it was a very, very transformative experience. Like I got to meet people who were really affected by the Obama foreign policy, which, you know, we kind of like all thought everything was cool once we got rid of Bush, and Obama was supposed to bring hope and change, and that ended up being like just a more like throwing gasoline into the fire and like spreading the Bush foreign policy, and just the refugee crisis is insane in Europe now.
Could you talk about that? Like people would think that well, you're a military guy, so it would be an assumption that since you're in the military, you would have more of the inside information as to what's going on. And you've been in the military and traveling and then seeing this stuff first person. Yeah. Could you talk about how in the States, basically, the media is not truthful of what's going on? I mean, the picture's presented in a way that you think, oh, yeah, you know, this is great. But you're out there on the front lines and you're like, it's completely different. Yeah. It's not what you think it is.
Yeah. And it's really not. And it's just, it goes into the whole, it's all done on purpose. And it's like they know that they're trying to persuade people and mislead people. Because they saw what really ended like the Vietnam War was the media, which brought a lot of life to what the veterans and active duty military were doing. Like the mutiny inside the armed forces during the Vietnam War was shown on the media, and people were watching this on the news, and then college campuses were erupting, and just society on both levels was just crumbling, and they were like, all right, like this war needs to stop. And then they realized that, okay, like we cannot have another like major theater war without having like, you know, a media that is biased and is going to be controlled by us, basically. And then you see like after 1980, like CNN came in, 24-hour news, and like the whole news has changed since then. Like it's not what it used to be like in like the 60s and 70s when you used to go back and watch stuff by like John Pilger or whoever was like around who was popular in those days. And they did that all on purpose, and that's why we live in a day and age where we could have 17 years of a war that is unwinnable, and most people don't even know why or care because it's just not talked about. Most people didn't even
know that we were in a war for 17 years.
Oh yeah, or that we're bombing like 7 other countries, and we have 800. Like these things aren't talked about in the media, and it's all done on purpose. So they know that if they talk about these things publicly over and over and over again, then people are going to act up. But it's not in the best interest of people who have the power to have an informed and educated populace in this country anymore. And it's really kind of sad.
I want to ask you about that. Do you really think that people would revolt, I guess is the word? Because you see it in France as right now.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was wow.
You know, just the backlash that you know, the government is receiving, but the people uniting in a way that, you know, people are getting hurt, some people are getting killed, but they're willing to go through this, you know, for the cause. Whereas, in my opinion, in the United States, there's too many distractions for people to be even care.
That will never happen
like,
here.
We'll get a march. We'll get a free concert, and then on to the next day. Like it's just over the head. You know, it's back. You know, you 100%. Have your Twitter things, you have your Instagram posts, but then you can always, you know, keep scrolling. You know, so could you talk about like what you think? Do you really believe that people here, if so, the truth were to come out, or whatnot, that people would be willing to sacrifice enough to affect that?
No. First of all, you're right. Like everything you just said on the dot, and to even add to that, it's like we're citizens of the most powerful empire the world's ever seen. So it's like we have the privilege of ignoring things like that, because at the end of the day, it's like people don't want to sacrifice those things here in the United States. And we also have a lot of internal problems that can never ever unite us the way other European countries seem like they're more connected citizen wise. I mean, the concept of like racism is like only really like able to thrive in America due to our history. Like it doesn't really work anymore in other, like, you know, European colonial powers. I mean, like, they still deal with, like, race issues and stuff, but, like, the historic racism is only a part of, you know, the United States history, where it was, like, you know, colored here, white here, and, like, slavery, and, like, a lot of these things factor in. Like, this country was founded by rich white men who are like, if you're not a rich white man, you're not going to have these rights. And then slowly but surely, after a lot of fighting, dying, and people acting the fuck up, people got what they, you know, were entitled to. But, like, we can't forget the fact that, like, this is still that same country. And it wasn't really that long ago, but, you know, we are a country where we just forget things that happened, like, 5 years ago. So, let alone we can't comprehend something that happened
yesterday.
Yeah. So, it's like we don't really have in my opinion, we don't have the education. We don't have the just, you know, drive to want to do that. Like, a lot of American people are just content with, as long as they have football on Sunday, the beer's cold, they got food, they got gas in their car, they got their family around them, like, they got a job, they're good. Like, and as long as, like, the elites, like, keep providing that illusion for them, the American dream, no one's gonna act up. So it's sad, because this country, you know, can be, like, you know, the beacon of hope for the rest of the world, but I don't think we're ever going to be that, and I don't think we ever really were. And I think if people say we were, they're just kind of kidding themselves. I mean, we've had, like, some pretty significant, like, impacts on the world in a good way. Like, I'd say the internet, definitely, and, you know, certain technologies and stuff like that, but that's about it. Everything
certain parts of social media, I mean, it does bring people together, 100%. But at the same time, I think the negatives outweigh the positives.
Oh yeah, that's the bad thing, and it's sad because France is a good example of that. Like, that's what happens when people are like, they say they've had enough. Like, people don't do that just because they feel like doing that. Like, that took a long time to get those people together. Like, it takes a lot to, like, plan an action with, like, 30, 50 people, let alone tens of thousands of people.
Right.
So people were like, hey, like, I don't really know why it was like gas or something.
Well, it was taxes that he was piling on there, but he was also lowering taxes for corporations and stuff, the elites. And,
but the people were like, hey, like, please stop.
Yeah, I think, like, the equivalent.
Please stop. And then it turns into, like, motherfucker, like, you know,
I think the equivalent, like, for the gas tax, I think it would be like $7 here.
Unbelievable.
I think so.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, people, but I think it would be like that amount.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Something ridiculous. Yeah.
So people, like, this obviously didn't happen overnight. So people were obviously, like, saying, hey, and it, like, exploded to what it is. So I don't think we'll ever get to that point, because anything could happen and we'll just deal with it because we're the country with amnesia. It's like literally like Iraq and Vietnam were the same, but yet Iraq was just kind of forgotten about, while Vietnam actually had an anti-war protest. there was an anti-war protest here, but you know, they found a way around that by putting in a guy like Barack Obama and then saying, all right, everyone forget about the wars, it's fine. Hey, we don't want no more dead troops, we'll just put drones instead, so that way the troops can kill people from afar and it's fine, but the wars will continue and you'll just keep paying for it. But are you cool? And American people are like, oh, okay, fine. Hey, and then like fucking Dick Cheney is getting a movie, and you know what was really crazy?
That's so weird,
dude. It's weird. This world we live in, all
weird.
This neoliberalism is just bizarre. I'm seeing it all over. Like when I'm in college right now, which any college in America is just, you know, neoliberalism university, and it's so crazy because like everybody's like, oh yeah, like we're like anti-war and we want to like, you know, like provide, you know, housing and food for the refugee children, blah. But yet when George Bush dies, like a guy who's like a big responsibility, who has a big responsibility for like this whole situation, why these people are fleeing him and Reagan, and then they're like, oh, RIP George Bush, he'll be missed. It's like people don't understand the contradictions here, and it's just like, it's this neoliberalism, and it's just so bizarre because they can never understand anything even when the facts are right in front of them, and then they'll just present you with something that's fiction and think it's a fact. And it's just so bizarre because like I like Ellen, I think she's funny, I enjoy watching some of her interviews, but like I saw something that was just like, I can't watch this, because my mom, she's an older woman, she sits there, watches TV all the time, and Ellen was on.
Yeah, my mom.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Dumbest stuff.
Like, and it's like Ellen was on, and then like Amy Adams was there, and it's like, yeah, like we're all like happy to be here, like fake clapping, and then she was like, yeah, you're so amazing as whatever Dick Cheney's wife's name is. And Ashton Kutcher was there for some weird reason, and they were like talking about this movie, and then Ellen was like, what really shocked me is I can't believe how much of this was real. I was like, Ellen, this was like 10 years ago. What are you talking about? How are you shocked that any of this stuff in this movie was real? And then like Ashton Kutcher, who's like kind of a smart guy, like was like kind of just look at his face, and then he like kept going with the interview, and I was like, oh my god! So, I can't watch neoliberalism TV anymore.
So I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's the same feeling that I have. Because Ashton Kutcher did, he had a meeting in Congress regarding child human trafficking, and he's in the celebrity limelight and stuff. And then that point that you made, that he made a face like, are you fucking kidding me? Like kind of deal, but. He's surrounded by these people. Yeah. So I'm of the notion that the way society is going now, as much as we want change and we know who's in charge and yada, 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 it's kind of like we have to be selfish and just worry about ourselves, because we're outnumbered, in my opinion. I think we're outnumbered. 100%. And, you know, it's like if you and I were crossing the streets, just like, hey, man, hey. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know that kind of. We get the idea of what's going on, but if we were to try and start something, we'd be the ones who'd be freaking, you know, demonized and everything, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And it's sad because I
don't know. I like being demonized.
Huh?
I like being demonized.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but, you know, playing the bad guy. But it's sad because you want everyone to see and understand what's going on, but it just seems like society's just dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. And I mean, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but it just seems, just the outlook of the way things are, and especially you can see it on social media when you see some post, you're just like, what are you doing? Yeah, like, how do people look at this and laugh and think it's okay and whatnot? Like there's the video of, like, just for an example, a video of like a 3-year-old, like I think, or a 5-year-old, or a graduation, getting her certificate, and she said she wanted to grow up to be a stripper, and everyone and all the parents in the classroom just started laughing, and I'm like, how is that funny to you? Like, how is that at any point? Like, how is that hilarious? First of all, she's 5. How the hell did she have an idea of what a stripper is at any point?
This is why. Right.
So you just see stuff like that, and it's just a continuous, way too often deal. And you're kind of just like, do I speak up? Or do I just kind of like, all right, let me just stay in my lane, worry about my people, worry about me,
yeah,
and just, you know, go about my business. Hey, you guys, you do your shit over there, man. I'm not fucking with that.
Yeah, and you know, I feel you on that. I think this may sound kind of like messed up, but it's like you kind of have to have like a Machiavelli kind of approach to it, where it's like you 60%, you know, I guess have to worry about your own shit, but like 40% try to make the world a better place and be idealistic, I hope. I mean, that's kind of like, it seems like the most common like philosophy of most like revolutionary leaders, seems like they've had. But like for me, I feel like personally what gave me hope was meeting people who were in like the civil rights movement, and I was just talking to them because, you know, this is the United States in 2000, like whatever I think it was 2017, 16 when I met them. But I was like, okay, but imagine being in like 1968 America. Like, holy fuck. Like, we think it's bad now. Imagine back then. And yet these people who were part of the civil rights movement and the anti-war protests and like these just like, you know, global revolts, which we don't talk about often because we don't talk about other people's history, which is bad because everybody's history in, you know, modern globalized context is important. And it has been since the past 150 plus years, I'd say, if not longer than that, since, you know, Europe started colonizing other parts of the world. Like, globalization is real, yet we don't talk about other people's history, which is bizarre. Because when we talk about that part of the U.S. history, the 1960s, like, it was a global revolt. Like, Rome was going to apeshit, London, like, Paris, like, Tokyo, like, Moscow, all these places were going berserk. And it all started from the Vietnam War. There's this really awesome documentary on DW. It's this YouTube channel, and it was just in 4 parts, and it's called 1968 Youth in Revolt. And it talks about a lot of this, and it's really, really, really awesome. I really like it. And
I'd recommend it to everyone to go check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely really good. And basically, we really need to acknowledge that the 1968, the Civil Rights Movement, was a big movement that changed the United States forever. But the thing is, 20% of the people that were a part of this movement were like the ones that were really about it. Like the ones that were like, hey, and this is what someone who told me who was a part of the civil rights movement. She basically told me that you got to look at people in like certain perspectives out of 100. Like, imagine 20% of people are like really, really idealistic, and they're like, man, like I got a better idea, and like I'm gonna like change the world because I'm not gonna live forever. I'm gonna die, and I want to make sure my kids live in a better world, or whatever it may be. Then there's another 20% of people that say, hey, I like the way things are now. I benefit, and I'm gonna stop these people that are trying to change shit. Or, you know, that other 20% is just too stupid to realize that there's a better way of doing things, and they're kind of just like, oh yeah, I'm on this guy's side, and I don't know why. Like poor white people who vote conservative, like, you know what I mean, like those types of people. But and then the other 60% of people, they're just kind of like, oh, whatever, like I'm just, you know, I want my food and my dog and brunch and social media, Kim Kardashian. But the thing is, though, is that things change inevitably. Like, it's a different world now than it was in, you know, 1918, 100 years ago. The world has changed drastically. The earth doesn't stop spinning for anybody. So you could either be one of those 20% who stand up and fight for change and you're idealistic and you go out into the world and you form up your own like superhero league or whatever. Or you can be the 20% and you benefit from how things are now and you don't want to change shit, or you just want to be the other 60% and be, you know, along for the ride as the earth spins. It's up to you. And it's just like, damn. She's got a point. And idealistic and progressive people, that 20%, always win. And then if you look back at, like, from a historical standpoint, you're right. We will be vilified for the things that we're going to talk about now. But the same way, Martin Luther King, who was wanted, was like one of the most dangerous people according to the FBI when he was alive. It's like, what? Now it's like, oh, we love Martin Luther King statues. Even the conservatives love Martin Luther King. Well, it's insane.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali. Oh, you're a draft dodger. Then he gets an award for it. By the way, he got the same award that George Bush got. So it's like,
he got it in '96.
It's just like, what, the hypocrisy. And it's the thing, like, America is this reality, like non-reality, like crazy, like empire that like is just unlike anything that the world has ever seen, and we just forget everything, and we're just like, we fumble around the world, do fucked up shit, and get away with it. Like, oh, sorry, we just killed 3 million Vietnamese, we'll leave, and then you guys will like us. And it's like, okay. and everyone's cool. It's like fine. It's just so bizarre because like we freak out over 9/11 and we lost like 2,000 people, which is a tragedy. But we killed 4 million Vietnamese and we don't even talk about it. And yet we go to their country like all the time for vacation or whatever. And it's just like we ignore it. But when people come here, it's like, oh, remember like our troops and remember 9/11. Like if you say anything bad about 9/11, like it's bad. It's like we can't live in a society like that where we say, hey, if you're, you know, white or if you're American, your life is more valuable than people in fucking Afghanistan or people in the Middle East. It's like, no, we are all humans. And I think when people start to travel more, we'll realize that slowly and surely. I think for me, that was a big thing that really helped me become more conscious was just meeting people who were affected by the refugee crisis and people from countries that were bombing and killing, like from Afghanistan. Like I met a young girl who was from Afghanistan, and it was like, wow, like hearing her story and hearing about her life and hearing how, you know, my country's government is just destroying this girl's country. And I think
you would see videos like online, and
it's insane.
You know, bombs being dropped, and people are like, "Oh my God, this is so terrible. I feel so sorry for them." You know, that's us, right? Just throwing it out there.
It's us doing that, and it's sad because I don't think I think if people realize like, because here's the thing, it's the same reason why like when a terrorist attack happens in Paris or London, it's like, Facebook flag is pray for Paris, pray for Manchester. Yet we commit a terrorist attack in a Middle Eastern country and killed more children, and it's like, oh, oops, Kim Kardashian. You know, it's like, no, children's lives all matter, right? Humans' lives matter, right? Whether they're brown or white or it's the life of a child, like, and I don't care how racist you are. Most people don't really hate babies. Like I've noticed, like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't like black people," but like, "Oh, babies are so cute."
Right,
like,
right.
Oh, look at this baby. You know what I mean? It's like you wouldn't kill a baby, so don't act like, oh, it's okay when we kill other people's. Or I mean, when we kill Middle Eastern children, and it's not okay when
they could grow up to be another terrorist.
Yeah, and it just breeds more terrorists. Like, have we ever asked any of these people that are coming to London and stabbing people with knives, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean,
like,
Hill Dog even admitted the ISIS situation.
There's a reason why these like insurgency groups are growing in Afghanistan, and we've lost. Like, we've spent so much money there, and we have like nothing to say for it. Like, nothing. Like, the country is lost. Like, we don't have any power in Afghanistan. It's been lost a long time ago. We're just holding on by a thread. And the most common deaths by U.S. soldiers over there is actually by Afghan people that we're training, which is insane. What does that tell you? It's like these people are like, fuck you guys.
Right.
Get out of here. Yet we're still there because there's too much money there. And it's something also interesting I found out. I don't know how true this is, and I'm assuming it's true because America's an empire. But most like emperors or like empires have tried to like take control of Afghanistan since like Alexander the Great, because they see it as like the center of like the world. And it's really kind of interesting. It's like this whole theory, and it was like they were talking about how like most major empires have at one point have had control over Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has like never been free in like the past like 2,000 years. Like constantly they've been dealing with shit, and it's really interesting when you look into the history of it, and then you hear a lot of like the stuff that Dick Cheney talked about, and because he was all about empire and all this other shit because he thought he was some fucking big shot, but
he was
whatever.
Not.
He was fucking lunatic.
Can you go back and speak on traveling and passports? Because before we started filming this, we were talking about the percentage of people who have passports.
It's mind-boggling.
People who use them and people who don't even have a passport. Like, what do you think the fear is of traveling outside of North America?
Oh man, a lot of it is media. Obviously has a big factor. Media, because media has shaped my perspective of a lot of places before I've gone there, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just when that's all you have, that's all you have, and you won't find out until you go there. Like, I watch so much stuff about what it's like to be like black, like in Russia, and like you just can't find anything that's like somewhat remotely positive unless it's coming from somebody who's like living there on their own, doing some independent media, which I found a few of those guys and reached out to them, which was cool. That's one of the positives of like having this information. But I had to really do some digging to find that kind of information, which most people aren't going to do. Like, most people would have just saw like
one click. And
yeah, they would have saw the first few pages, like, oh, it's just everything's negative. Forget it. I'm not going there. So it's like media has an aspect to it. And it's also, I don't think people have an interest. Like, people just don't care. Like, if you live in New York, you don't really have much of an interest in going anywhere else when you pretty much have everything there. And, like, you don't really want to go anywhere else. And I think it's, like, a lack of interest. I think the media plays a big perspective. I think our lifestyle just doesn't really cater to that. It's like we work way too much. We don't take enough time to, like, actually enjoy ourselves. It's, like, seen as a bad thing here in America if you like to relax. It's like, oh, you like to relax? Like, you're lazy. Like, you gotta get a job. You should work. And then like in France, it's to the opposite. It's like we hate working. We all love to relax. Like in France, the average French person gets 8 hours of sleep a day, and they're always chilling. Like France is like, you've been to France before, right?
I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, it's like
I've been to London.
Yeah, you'll see Paris. It's such a chill. Like that's why it's like
not now, but you know,
yeah,
not chill now, but.
But like it's a very, very chill, relaxed like atmosphere vibe, and that's just their culture. And like that's cool. I dig that. So it's so funny because we don't have that culture here in the United States. Like it's like you have to work. Like we don't take vacations. We work. Like hustling. Like it's just a part of our culture. It's get money. Everything is about money. And then when you even have the money to travel, like it's like you don't really want to even fucking do. It's like, nah, I'm gonna buy a car, or I'm gonna buy a house, or I'm gonna buy a ring, or I'm gonna buy like shoes. And I've noticed that like some people have that perspective because when I was doing Uber, and I remember I picked up this guy and he was like, yeah, thank God for Uber, man. Otherwise, like if I was drunk, I'd have a DUI, and that's like $10,000 down the drain. He's like, that's a new watch. And I'm just like, yo, that's like a trip to like,
right, 10 grand's like, a lot of money to
I can go like all around like the world with that kind of money. Like this guy's thinking about buying a watch. Like, see what I mean? It's like a mentality thing too. And I also think because the United States is that culture where everybody, whether you're white, black, you're taught to assimilate around a certain ideology. It's taught to speak English. Everybody has to, like, you know, if you're black, you have to like hip hop music, blah, 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 play basketball. If you're white, you have to be intelligent, and like your dad has to have a good job. And like if you're Asian, you have to be good at math. Like we have all these like stupid ass fucking stereotypes that like we kind of like low key force people to live in, and it's taught through when you're a child. I mean, you've seen the doll test. Yeah, that's all taught. That's by, and they don't do that in other countries. We only do that here. And I've noticed it like in Canada. Have you been to Canada?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, and you
Toronto.
notice that in Canada they have an idea like, because they're also once a colony and like everybody's from somewhere else, but they acknowledge that they're like a melting pot. They're like, I'm Canadian Haitian, or I'm Canadian Italian, or I'm Canadian German. It's not like I'm white. You know what I mean? It's like, what does that even mean? Like, what does white even mean? Like, you go over to Europe, they're like, I'm from England, I'm from France, I'm from Germany, I'm from Russia. Like, no one uses white except for the United States. So it's like, that alone right there is not going to make you want to travel if you feel like you don't even have a real connection to the old world in a sense. And we're lucky enough to be, you know, first generation born here, so we still have that tie. And I've talked to a lot of people who are African American that don't feel connected to Africa. Like they have the money to go there, but like they go there and they're like, I don't belong here. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, because both my parents, I mean, I've told you before, both my parents are, my dad's from Congo, my mom's from Nairobi. So growing up in an African household, you know, they were just trying to learn and understand what America is. And then when I had that opportunity to go back to Africa and understand my roots, I guess you can say, of where my family's from and everything, you know, like you were saying with the misconceptions you see on the media of how, oh, they're in huts and yada, yada, yada. Man, they got freaking skyscrapers. They got luxury things. I mean, it's...
Yeah, you never hear anything good about the Congo.
It is the complete opposite of what you would think.
That's amazing.
Nairobi is gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
That's awesome.
And there's always arguments that made like, oh, Africa wouldn't be where it is today without European colonization. It's absolute.
You know what it was like before European colonization?
Absolute bullshit.
These people
Absolute
don't know
bullshit.
anything.
Like, you think that European colonization got it to where it is now?
Yeah,
no,
Europe needed to get to the where it is by exploiting Africa.
Right. It doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense. And then people who believe in that ideology, I mean,
yeah, well, it's because they're brainwashed, dude. And it's sad because a lot of African Americans, since they've lost their disconnection to Africa, like, all they know is the Western world. And all they know is being, you know, not accepted in that world. And it's sad because you can never be accepted in the Western world, unfortunately, if you're a person of color. It's just not the way the system was designed. I'm sorry. Like, America was not designed to benefit anybody over a white male. Sorry, it was just the way it was. They fucked up. I mean, the Constitution's dope, like what's written down on there. Although it's so funny because, like, I'm such a big fan of the Constitution, but at the same time I realize how, like, you can't be a fan of the Constitution without it being like a kind of hypocrisy. Because, like, Thomas Jefferson, you know, he said life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, all men are created equal, and he clearly didn't believe that because he had slaves. So he, like, knew how to, like, say things to get people riled up, which worked.
It's a psychological thing.
Yeah, it's a psychological thing.
Politics use that all the time.
So I'm an admirer of, like, what's written on the Constitution. Fuck the people who wrote it. But, like, those ideals, I think, are good and just. Because at the end of the day, these guys weren't good people, but they were intelligent and they were scholars. And, like, they were people who paid attention to history when they came up with this stuff. So I think if, like, the United States, like, actually was like, hey, maybe we should take that out of the museum and, like, actually look at this fucking thing and, like, actually really, like, abide by it, like, we'd be way better off and the world would be way better off. But we'll never do that because our country was stolen by a certain group of people a long time ago. Like, a long time ago. Like, not a person alive can ever remember what, you know, the United States was going to be before it was taken by these people. It's like, it's too late now. Fuck it. Humans fucked up. We're either going to die by, you know, nuclear catastrophes, or the earth is just going to kill us.
Oh, well, Mother Nature's going to be like, man, F you, man. I don't know what the hell your problem is.
You guys fucked up.
Right.
I'm tired of these nuke tests. You're destroying me. Fuck y'all. Like, there's a cause and effect to everything. I don't think people have realized that there's been a total environmental shift in our planet ever since the, you know, creation of nuclear bombs. Has anyone ever thought about that? It's like every time we test one of these things, like, we fuck up our planet, like, severely.
Well, look at the Japan nuclear crisis. I mean, the freaking waste, the wind was bringing it to the shores of California. Yeah. And people were just like, I mean, there's news reports about it.
We're not thinking about it.
Not hearing anything about it. People are like, why is there dead fish just flopping up on the shores now? Thousands of dead fish, hundreds of thousands, just dead fish, just bloop, bloop. Oh, man, that's weird.
See, we're not thinking about that, dude.
Mariner Trench, oh, it's polluted. How? That's like the deepest part of the world in the ocean found so far.
Yeah.
How is that polluted? Like, how did it get to that point? But
we're not thinking about that, dude. And, like, I've been doing a lot of looking at, like, the American Empire and stuff like that. And I can't help but notice that there's been a big shift in, you know, how our planet has been reacting since we've created nuclear bombs. And every time we test one of these things, we leave particles, like some type of, I forgot the exact particles, but, like, these go into the atmosphere. And there's a cause and effect to everything. Like, if you have a yard, right, and, like, you're just butchering it, like, you're fucking it up, like, it's not going to grow the way it's supposed to because, like, you're fucking it up.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like there's a cause and effect to everything. So I feel like what we're doing is the earth is, like, because there's no force more powerful than Mother Nature. Like, what we're basically doing with these nuclear bombs is, like, splitting atoms, which is in nature. And so it's like we're trying to, like, be more powerful than Mother Nature itself, which is just, you can't be. Like, Earth is God. Like, Earth is always going to win.
Right.
So
it's been around for billions of
it's
years.
just like, what are we doing, dude? Like, we have such a beautiful planet, yet these assholes are fucking conducting these nuclear tests that are fucking it up. They're polluting our oceans. They're cutting down these trees, yet they care about fucking Mars, which looks like hell.
Yeah.
It looks like straight. Like, I was looking at images of Mars, and I was like, I am never going to live there. Why the fuck would I ever go live there and not live on a beach in like Madrid or not Madrid, Barcelona? Like, Earth is so fucking dope. Like, Earth is so beautiful, and yet these assholes are just destroying it to go to live on hell. Like, these people are crazy, dude. I'm telling you. I think they legitimately worship Satan or something. They're wild.
Can you talk about that appreciation? And let's switch it back to
when
you're good. When you made that, you had that epiphany moment from the military.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you started to appreciate more about life from before you even got into it?
Dude, I really started to appreciate just human beings in a way that, like, it was just impossible for me to see being a kid that didn't travel and just living here in the States. Like, for example, like, we grew up here believing, like, Russia is, like, our enemy. And it's easy to believe that if, like, you don't really meet any Russians and you constantly get hit with propaganda. And I like to talk about Russia a lot because it was the place I went to before I went into basic training, which gave me an interesting perspective because I got to meet like some very, very interesting people like who were in the Russian military. Like my friend's dad was like a colonel, and I went like shot to shot with him on vodka. I was like, fuck, this is crazy. Like, I don't really drink, but whatever. He was a good dude, and we just talked about so much stuff. Like, he had a coin that was given to him by Ronald Reagan when he came here to DC with Gorbachev in the 80s, and I was like, that's insane. And we're just talking about, like, you know, the Cold War and like our like military powers, and it just gave me an interesting perspective because I was like, I'm looking at it from the enemy side,
right?
You know? Like,
Right.
Although, like, I was just like, yo, I don't see these people as my enemy. Like, I had Russian like Navy men and Army people come up to me because they're like, oh, black person, take a picture with me. And, like, all they really want to do is just take a picture and drink vodka and, like, hang out with girls. And I was like, we don't want to kill each other. Like, this is stupid. But yet, like, if we don't, like, go out and have those experiences, we'll be, like, we won't know any better. Like, if we don't go out and actually try to see people as people, then we're constantly going to try to vilify everybody. And we can keep giving ourselves enemies. Anybody can be the enemy as long as we fail to understand them. And if you think about it, yo, like, if the United States was ever like, all right, like, we got to close these 800 bases down, but there needs to be a new enemy in America, would it really be hard for them to say, all right, black people are enemy number one? Next time you see a black person, lynch them, shoot them, whatever. I mean, dude, like, it's like anybody can be the enemy if you refuse to, like, acknowledge who they are as a human being and, like, understand their culture. So for me, I've always just, especially moving around a lot, I've always just been trying to interact with as many people as possible. But I think for me, a big thing was seeing how our foreign policy was affecting people and, like, seeing these people and hearing their stories and just understanding that they're human and our government is, you know, at a direct cause to their suffering. I mean, it's sad what's going on in Russia. I mean, Russia has to maintain its, like, military might, although it doesn't really want to because it's broke. Like, the country has no money. Like, they're just like, fuck, we have no choice because NATO is pushing closer and closer. Like, we shouldn't even have NATO anymore. Like, NATO should be gone. There's no Warsaw Pact. Why do we have NATO? Like, yeah, we're like, oh, what's happening in Ukraine? We should be the Ukraine. Boy, hey, you American, point where the Ukraine is on the map. I have no idea. Why the fuck are we over there then, you assholes? We should stop fucking around in these parts of the world where Americans can't even find it on the map. It's stupid. It is so fucking dumb. And then you go over to these parts of the world in the Baltics, and literally, like, in that Kaliningrad region, I remember I showed you it.
Yeah.
Poland and Lithuania, NATO countries. Russia, Kaliningrad. NATO and Russian troops next to each other. All up and down the Baltics in a way that was never done during the Cold War. It wasn't even like that during the Cold War, which everybody talks about, like, being the most dangerous time. Yo, it's even worse now. Yet we just ignore it. And we're just going to just keep pushing it. So it's like, it's just stupid. And then, like, you realize it, and it's just, like, it's just sad. Because you see, like, the effects of, like, globalization. You see the effects of, like, a kid in America not giving a fuck about this is, like, really fucking up a kid in Russia who like is like having to go into the military, although he doesn't want to because they have to protect their borders because we're pushing closer to them. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's just so many levels to it that like just gets to you, and then you come back here, and then you're like for example, like when I had a visa situation, and I went to the embassy, and there was like 150 kids waiting in line in the cold to like come to the embassy to like just have a job in the summer, like my friends did, to like get some money because their economy sucks. And I'm just like, damn, I'm skipping this whole line. Like as an American, like I feel so like lucky, and like I just got my thing done, and like these kids are waiting out here probably all day. And then you come back here and you see some kid born here who didn't have to really work for it. Like he just happened to be born here saying, America's the greatest country in the world, and like I like, you know, flip burgers, and just like I don't really do anything, and I hate my parents. And you're just like, God, why can't I just take one of those Russian kids who are waiting in the cold and take this guy and put him over there, and like take one of these guys, because they will like actually be like, in my opinion, a more productive and somebody I would rather share a country with. Like somebody who would walk 1,000 miles through a desert, I would totally share a country with you. Like I salute you. That's amazing. With a baby and like no shoes on, like please like send one of these guys who like Trump to like Guatemala or whatever, and like we can take one of these people. We like just have like a trade-off or something. But I don't know, once you travel enough and you look at the world, at least the way that I do, and then you have enough time to like, you know, think about this stuff and not really let other people's like ignorance or negative vibes get in your way. And then I came back here, and then due to the, you know, surprisingly, like the Facebook algorithms, you know how those work.
Right.
Like, hey, is this what you're interested in? Like, here, we'll send you this. And I started seeing more like anti-war activist stuff pop up in videos. And like now I go on there, it's like all anti-war shit now. So it's like, okay, Facebook, I'm not mad at this, although it's weird as fuck, but it's weird. Fine.
Facebook knows what you do when you sleep.
Yeah, dude. So yeah, I think it all just kind of just accumulated together to what it led to now. You know, it all kind of happened really fast. It all kind of happened all this year. I mean, I just met Will like in May, and it led to what I'm doing now with you and everything.
So talk about that when you met Will and joined About Face, and what that experience has been like, talking with these veterans who suffered from PTSD, like severe PTSD.
Oh, yeah, for me, it happened towards like the beginning of this year, where my mental state just was like, I was done. Like I wasn't eating, I was just not talking to anybody. I was just like extremely like depressed and like angry, like everything and everyone. I hated like the way my life was, and it wasn't like I didn't want to die, but like if I died, it wouldn't bother me.
It wouldn't bother you.
Yeah, it's not like I want to kill myself, although like I was thinking about it, but I was just like, fuck, like I just want someone to like just like kill me. Like I was like, I think death is the only way to like ever get out of this like feeling. Like, but like I thought about it, but I was like, I don't know, like my mom and dad and stuff like that. And then it got to a point where like one time where I was still in the Air Force when I was going through this, but then I opened up and I talked with like the people high up in my chain of command, which I got lucky, and they were really, really supportive. Because at first I was really kind of nervous, but they were very, very supportive, and they gave me some resources. But they, for my privacy, they kept it very, very low key. And then there was a situation where I was like called in to like work a shift, and I was like armed up when I wasn't supposed to. And I knew I wasn't supposed to have that gun, but I was thinking, man, like, I think this could be the time. Like, I was like, I can maybe like get one of these people to kill me, or I can like maybe kill myself. And like,
it's deep.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and then I had somebody with me, and like we just had like a really decent conversation. He was a good guy. He was like really like, you know, right wing conservative, but like he was a nice guy. He was caring, very, very military guy. And like just having somebody there like really, really helped. And I was like, fuck, man, like what am I thinking? Like this is bad. So like I was just really lucky that somebody was there, and somebody was there that was like not going to push my buttons, or like was just a good guy and like helped me relax. And like I was able to talk to them and confide in them, and it was like, yeah, I've been there, da da da. And yeah, the next day, I mean later that shift after I got off, I was pulled into the office and we just talked, and they were like, yeah, we appreciated you like standing up, but like make sure you like don't have like a firearm again. And I was like, yeah, like of course. And then I went home and I was just like, holy shit, like what a day. Like it was just so traumatic. Like I was just devastated, and I was like, I can't believe like I had those thoughts. I can't believe I was like you know, even put in a position to like even have a gun, and like just like the like, you know how the military works, like it's like the, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like the complacency. It's just like there's a list that says this person is like is not supposed to be armed up. And like the thing is, like when I was called in to go in, I told like the person above me in my squad, I was like, I'm on the do not arm list. Like I can't arm up. And he's like, oh, okay. He hung up. And then he called me back 5 minutes later. He's like, show up anyway. They're not going to arm you up. And I was like, if I can't arm up, then what the fuck am I going to do there? Right. But whatever, I'll go like I was told. So yeah, they understood, and didn't end well for that guy because he got in trouble. And then they like, you know, just swept it under the rug because they got other fucking problems to worry about. And then I told them what I was going through, and then they understood. And then I reached out to the GI Rights Hotline. The GI Rights Hotline helped me with my discharge process, and they gave me a therapist who I've been talking to like every week since like March. She's a wonderful woman, and yeah, she helped me out with my discharge process, and everyone that needed to know in my chain of command was very, very supportive. They were like, we understand what you're doing. We're always going to be here for you if you need us. Like gave me their card. And they were just really, really nice. And I just felt like I got really, really lucky with like my whole military experience, honestly.
More lucky than most.
Yeah, very, very lucky. But like it was still very, very traumatic because it was just like, holy fuck, like what an experience. And then like I was seeing more and more of like the anti-war stuff. And then as I found the GI Rights Hotline, I found at that time it was called Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans Against the War. And I was like, oh wow, what's this? And then it was like, you know, a bunch of like kind of older white dudes like, yeah, like, we went to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was like, cool, I'm with you guys. Like, but I don't know if I can join this group because I never went to Iraq or Afghanistan. Like for me, I was in the Guard. Like I don't even feel like I can stand with people who've been to like Baghdad or like Fallujah or whatever. Like really, like am I even on par with like this level of veteran? Like I was like, I don't really even feel like I even qualify. But then they changed their name to About Face, and it was for that reason, to make sure like all veterans feel like they belong, and not just like white dudes who went to Iraq. Like everybody who like has had like some kind of conscious break and were in the military. Mm-hmm. And the name was a lot more inclusive for me, and I was like, oh, okay, About Face. Like I can get behind that because it's like we all did like an about face, like we did a 180 in our consciousness, and we're now like we're once this way, now we're that way. I dig that. That's awesome. And then I signed up for them, and then they were like, yeah, like come join our conference call, and like if you're interested, like join. So I was like, yeah, I'll join. So I joined, and then I just like kind of like forgot about it for a little while, and then a couple weeks later, I get like a phone call or an email from someone. I forgot. I think it was Shauna, and she was like, hey, we're going to be in DC doing some work with the Poor People's Campaign. Like, are you interested? And I was like, I don't really know. How do I feel about like hanging out with these like veterans that may be leftist? Like, I don't know. Maybe they're like low key, like not leftist. Like, I don't know. I was just like really skeptical because like most veteran like organizations are very, very conservative, like pro-war. And I was just hoping that they weren't that organization that was like acting
secretly, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I was like, why not? DC's not that far away. I don't know anything about the Poor People's Campaign. I knew nothing about activism. All I've been watching was like, you know, Peace Report videos and other stuff on Facebook and YouTube. But I ended up going down there. I stayed with my sister. I ended up going to the Airbnb that they had set up, and I met like Will, Matt, Shauna, Vincent, and Deirdre, and just a bunch of amazing people. And I was like, wow, like all these people are all really leftist, and like they're way smarter than me, and they know so much stuff. Like this is awesome. And like they were just so cool, and I was like, yes, like this is like my group of people. This is like my Justice League. Like it's my squad. So we hung out, we got to know each other, and the next day we woke up and then did the action with the Poor People's Campaign, which was very, very powerful. Like
yeah, we'll talk about that. What was it like?
For me, I was just like, I don't know what to expect. Like I didn't stay the night at the Airbnb. I went to go stay with my sister who lives in DC. I was just like, I couldn't sleep. Like I was like, man, like I'm going to do an action. Like what are we going to do? Like I didn't know what was going on. Like all they told me was like, we're here as veterans to like bridge the link between militarism and poverty, because like a lot of people who are in lower socioeconomic classes tend to join the military at higher rates. And I was like, cool, fascinating, but I don't know anything else. Like, and they're like, we'll find out more as we get there. And then the whole day was like, take one step at a time, like a learning experience for me, because it was a new experience. Like I'd never been doing like anything like that before. So I was down there, and it was great because all those guys made me feel like at home. Like I felt so much more comfortable being around like-minded veterans, and like we all like did it like in a very, very like military style way of doing it. And it was just great. And it was like, you know, we have like a task, like this person's going to do media, this person's going to do like this, that. And it was just well organized, and like veterans and people who've been in the military like know how to get shit done. Like we have to like get like 150 people to like eat in like 30 minutes. So it's like, I dig
Everyone
that.
knows
Like,
a regiment.
Yeah, I dig that.
Quickly.
I still kind of dig that regiment and like getting things done. But now it's for like an even better cause than what we were actually doing in the military. Because like I joined because I didn't really even join for the benefits itself. I just joined because I wanted to like have like the team aspect and the family dynamic, and like having like a team, you know, be a part of something big. And when I didn't get that in the military, I'm glad that About Face managed to fill that void, because that action was really, really awesome. And we got to shut down Mitch McConnell's office with like 150 people. I don't even know we can just walk into the Senate. I walked right past John McCain's office. He wasn't there because he was probably getting brain surgery for like the 10th time. But anyway, it was cool to go in there. And it was nice to be around all those people. They were amazing. And it was nice to learn about the Poor People's Campaign, which was founded by Martin Luther King to protest the Vietnam War. And it's great that they're still doing work. Like Jesse Jackson still does like actions with them. Danny Glover. It was just amazing. It's an amazing organization. I really got a lot of love and appreciation for them. And then it was cool because they showed me like more what About Face was kind of about. But like I still was kind of like, that was like a Poor People's Campaign action, and we were just affiliated there.
Right.
And then I went to the convention and learned more about them, and like hung out with like all people that were About Face. And the convention was in Washington State. It was about an hour and a half south of Seattle. And it was funny because I remember I was having my sister take me to the airport. My sister's a civilian, so she doesn't get like anything, you know, that a military person would understand. So she's like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. Like, you're going all the way to Washington State on like the other side of the country to like live in the woods with like a bunch of strangers that you don't even know. And I'm just like, yeah. And it's like bizarre.
Don't you get it?
Yeah, it's like, what are you like are you gonna get kidnapped? Like, and like I don't think that way, because I never thought that way, first of all. But like even for somebody who's in the military, it's like, yeah, because that's what basic training was. Like we got thrown into a room with like 50 people we don't know, and we're all just like, what the fuck is going on? And like, we have to live with each other for 2 months. Like,
and after those 2 months, you guys are supposed to be family, because especially if you've got on the field,
you're
supposed to have each other's back.
So it's easy for me to do something like that. So I get why she probably didn't understand. But to go out there and to meet all these people was all love, because we all have that common, like that bond, because we're in the military and had that like About Face conscious shift. So it was great to meet a lot of those people and to like get some training and to be out in Washington. I got to see a really good childhood friend of mine. That was also fun. And it was just a great time in the Northwest. And then I came back, school, so went through the, you know, tedious and mundane task of college. And then I got a call about the George Bush action, which was great too. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that also.
Yeah, talk about that and like how that whole setup happened. And I mean, you guys made the news.
We did, which was totally unexpected. So I got the phone call, like, hey, I was on Signal. It was like, hey, like, we have an action that we're going to do in Philadelphia on Veterans Day. And at first I was like, what is it exactly? It's like, so George Bush is getting his award for his commitment to veterans. And it was kept so low key. Like, no one really knew about this. Like, the National Constitution Center kept it very quiet. Funny, huh? Like, they kept it, very few people were there. There were probably only like 700 to 600 people in this tent. It wasn't even inside the building. It was in a tent outside the building. Just a really bizarre, like, kind of setup. Like, you would think, like, if someone like Steven Spielberg was going to win an award like that, like it'd be inside.
Right.
But I guess since it's George Bush,
it'd be recognized, televised.
Yeah, it's George Bush, so it's just like fuck this guy. Like, but he's a Bush, so let him get his like day to shine. The whole thing was just like kind of a sham if you think about it deeply. But anyway, so it was a last minute like action. So I was like, yeah, like let's do it. Like at first I was gonna go to DC and hang out with Veterans for Peace. But I didn't want to really go there and be like, oh, Armistice Day, oh, Armistice Day, oh, Armistice Day. It's like, nah, like, if I'm going to, like, be out in the cold, I want to, like, do something that's, like... Meaningful, especially to me, as a post 9/11 guy who was in the military. And anybody who is alive has been affected by George Bush. Like, I think he affected everybody on the planet. So it's like, yeah, I got to go be here for this. This is way more important. So I kept it very, very low key. Like I didn't even tell anybody at all. I talked about everything through Signal, and because we didn't know what was going to happen, so we kept it very, very low key. Because like I never protested in action for a fucking president before. Like this is crazy. Like the whole thing was just like, whoa, like, oh, am I really doing this? Like George Bush and then Joe Biden is going to be there. Like what the fuck? So I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. So my dad, he's taking me to the megabus. He's like, so where you going again? And I was like, oh, I'm going to Philadelphia. He's like, why again? And I was like, he's like, military related? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then like he takes me to like the bus.
That's all he needs to know.
Yeah, so I was like, all you need to know is top secret, pops. So he takes me to the bus, and I'm getting there, and then get to Philly. I get picked up. We pick up some groceries. We rendezvous at the Airbnb. We get everybody all like together, and you know everybody gets to eat. We get to know each other, relax, snooze. And we wake up really early the next day for like training, and we had like a lot of training. Like it may seem like we kind of like did it just really smooth, but like it took a lot of like training, like 2 days worth of like training. We had to go through like what may possibly happen. Like some people were looking at
worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario. So some people were like, "What's the worst case scenario?" Some people can be doing like federal charges, getting like arrested. And we were just making sure that everybody knew like what the stakes were going in and what their role was. So we had like a great group of people that were there to like train us, and it was just really, really awesome like how well put together it was, because it was my first action with About Face, and this was way different from what we did with the Poor People's Campaign. This was kind of like kindergarten compared to like that was like a next level, like whoa, okay, like I'm with the big kids now.
Right.
So it was like my first ever action, and I'm just kind of like, man, this is awesome. But I'm also nervous as fuck, and I'm also like kind of like, holy shit, like what is going on? Like this is nuts.
Put me in jail for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't get arrested, man. I was like, I want to stand with you guys. And like, don't worry, we have a spot for you. And like that, they do a really good job with like helping everybody feel inclusive, because we realize that not everybody can get arrested. And it also, like for me personally, like as a person of color, like I feel like if you're a white veteran, like getting arrested like can be seen as like being, a freedom fighter or like an activist. Right. But like if you're a person of color and you're a veteran getting arrested, it's like you're seen as like someone who
he's a thug
who you're disrespectful, you don't respect society, and like all that shit.
Ungrateful.
Yeah, you're ungrateful. So it's like it doesn't have the same effect. And like we acknowledge that because not everybody has the same privilege that other people have. So like some people are willing to take that risk, and I appreciate people who have the privilege to do that. Because there were a lot of people that were willing to like actually take federal charges, and they're like, yeah, like I'll do it, like fuck it, like fuck Bush. And I was like, damn, like I'm seeing a whole other side of it, because there were also people who were willing to get arrested for the Poor People's Campaign. Like 150 people got arrested when we shut down Mitch McConnell's office. But it wasn't the same. It was like they all paid $50 and they just like we all went home and like had lunch.
Go home. Right.
Yeah, but this was like way different compared to that. The stakes were much higher. So I saw it from a different perspective, because I was only looking at it from the poor people's perspective beforehand. But then seeing it like seeing how what people were willing to risk and stuff, I was like, wow, like that's powerful. How you must feel so passionate about this that you're willing to like do federal time for like a weekend or whatever, like actually take a federal charge to protest this man. Like this man wronged you so much. Like it's just powerful to be around these people and to hear everyone's stories, and it was just a great environment to be around. It was an experience that has forever changed my life and my perspective, because when we were going down to the National Constitution Center, it was like Man, I don't know what to expect. Like, we just looked like this interesting squad because it was Veterans Day, so it was like some of us are wearing uniforms, some of us aren't, but like we're just like a really like interesting collective group of people, very very diverse, and everyone's just kind of like staring at us down the street and like, where are these guys going? What are they up to? Some people are like, woohoo, yeah, veterans, and then like. We ended up getting to the National Constitution Center, and there were already some protesters there. And we already had our plan set up, like what we were going to do, unveil the flag, who needed to be where. I was mainly doing a lot of, like, media because I was using, like, my blog and, like, showing people it. And I was really happy with the responses that a lot of people got. Like, a lot of people were like, yo, like, there was a lot of love for that. And a lot of people were like, yo, so much respect, and thank you for doing that. And, like, bringing it to life. And it was great because, once we got there, like, we were able to, like, actually, like, set up shop and, like, actually, like, you know, chant and scream, and, like, everything was fine. I was like, we all expected to, like, maybe, like, be there for, like, 30 seconds, if that, I thought. And then, like, Secret Service and, like, everyone else was just going to jump on us and, like, arrest everybody, and the whole thing was going to be over. But no, they were like, as long as we stayed on the street and we didn't, like, you know, step foot on the property, we were good because we weren't on federal property. Because the National Constitution Center is federal property. It's not state or city property. That's why you can get a federal charge if you trespass on it.
Yep.
So we were like just hanging out in like the state side and just like screaming, going ape shit, like while there's like this tent set up. And then what was really awesome is that there were other civilians there too that also were protesting, and it was like, yeah, and like they were so happy to see us there. And there was a woman there who lost her son in the initial invasion of Iraq, and that was so sad to meet her. Like I just hugged her, and she was just so happy to see us there. She was like, thank you so much for being here. And that meant that alone like made everything worth it. I was like, all right, if this whole thing gets shut down, just being here for this woman who lost her son and like surprising her and like solidarity like meant the world to me. But yeah, we were able to go on, and we were like, yo, what else can we do? And then like we ended up like shutting down like one of the other entrances, and they had to like move it to like another part of the tent. And yeah, it was like, damn, we shut down the entrance, and we like just stood there and we were just yelling like on the loudspeaker so that way everyone can hear us. And we all got to like say our piece, and we all got to say a few words, which was like funny and like, you know, therapeutic and like sad at times. It was just so many emotions and like all balled up into one. And it was great because we actually saw like Joe Biden and George Bush like walk into the tent, and we're like screaming, like, hi, Joe Bush, we see you. They look, and then they just like keep going. Like they tried so hard to like ignore us the whole time, but like they just couldn't because we were so loud. Like the whole entire ceremony was disrupted.
Yeah, there's clips online you can see, and he's like making a speech, and then like you can see like the subtitles of what people were screaming in the background.
And it's like you just hear us just going crazy, just screaming, and then like, dude, there were people that paid $25,000 a seat to be at that left because they were like, we can't deal with this shit. Like these people are making us like. They walked out because we were just making them go insane. They paid $25,000 a seat, and they're like, peace out. Like, we left. They left.
$25K just to sit there and look at this man.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he made their money. Like, they're like...
still, what the fuck?
I don't know why. Like, it's just crazy. Like, you don't have anything better to do? Like, can you send a kid to college, please? Like... You like just walked away from $25,000. Like that's another thing too. Like I was like, dude, like these are the like elite. Like you have to be like the 1% to do something like that. Like that's insane. That is a college tuition.
And some people's salaries for a year.
And some people's salaries for a year. This person was like, you know what? I'm annoyed. Fuck this. Let's just leave. That's like. I wouldn't even do that for a $10 movie. Like even if the movie sucks, I'm like when I was watching Deadpool 2, I was like, I could just leave. And I could get my money back, but like, fuck it. It's $10. I'll just stay. But like, I've seen people walk out of movies before. Like, if a seat for something costs $25,000, like, you have to be on another level. Like,
would you walk out The Last Jedi?
Fuck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Put you on the spot.
Yeah. No. I stayed. I didn't walk out. I wanted to, but I didn't. But anyway, it was just like. I'm glad that we were able to annoy some 1%ers who profited off of, you know, death and destruction and other horrible things. And anybody who is just in solidarity with George Bush is somebody who I would gladly like to annoy and piss off. So it was great to be there, and it was just so awesome because even like the civilians got involved and like joined our little like thing. And then one person put up like this projector on like the TED, and it was just it was just insane. And then like you can see the guys recording from C-SPAN, they're turning around, they're like, fuck, like they're just so annoyed with us making noises because we're just fucking up all their videos. And it was just so funny because during the national anthem, everyone's like standing there silent, and all you hear is our sirens and us like screaming.
Really?
It was on C-SPAN, dude. It was so like the thing is, like, we had no idea this was going on while we were doing this. We were just doing our action and like talking to media and like just trying to do our best to disrupt the ceremony. We had no idea like how loud we were until we went home and saw all of it. So at the time, we were just all doing our thing, and yeah, it was pretty awesome because another thing that happened too, there was these two guys that came up and like blocked the projector that the civilians had set up, and then they came to one of our like our lead organizers and were like, hey, can you get one of the veterans to like get rid of these guys? But we didn't really want to like have any like drama or beef, and they were like, oh no, sorry, like we don't want to like have any issues, so sorry. And they were like, okay, we understand. But I felt bad. I was like, I'm gonna use my cop techniques of what do they call it? De-escalation to get rid of these guys. So I was like, excuse me, sir, like, you want to get rid of these? Like, yeah, these guys are just like blocking our projector. Like, I was like, who are these guys? Like, I don't know. They just walked up and started blocking it. So I was like, all right, these guys are either like Secret Service or like they're just like random citizens that love Bush so much that they're gonna fuck up. Like, I don't know who they were, but I was like, fuck these guys. So what I did, I was like, all right, so I took out my phone and I was like, hey, yeah, look at all these guys. I just started like posting them on like social media. I was like, hey, look on Snapchat. Hey, look, Instagram. Look at these guys. These are the kinds of people that support Donald Trump and fucking George Bush who kill like babies and women and children. And I'm like, yeah, I have 10,000 followers and I'm showing you all over the internet. I hope your wife and your kids are going to be
Someone's
happy.
going to find out who you
Someone's
are.
going to find out who you are. This is what people look like who support Donald Trump and Bush. And they were like, they just walked away. And I was like, that's why you guys are losing. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. And they walked away. It was so bizarre. So yeah, I don't know who they were, but I got rid of them, luckily, without anybody getting hurt, and they walked away. And then yeah, we just like kept going on and on and on. The whole thing went on for about maybe like 2 hours. I was near death by the end of it.
Really, just so much screaming.
Yeah, but it was awesome. It was so worth it. But yeah, towards the end of the ceremony, we ended up just like dismantling, and we ended up going back to the Airbnb and like watching the news and like just seeing the reactions and like seeing the C-SPAN video and like seeing everything with everybody. We all just couldn't believe it. We were like, yo, this is on C-SPAN live, and the whole thing is on there. And like you see like Bush, like he's like looking off into the distance and he's like mumbling, like trying to like maintain his composure, all that. And the whole thing, like looking back, was just very, very therapeutic, educational. I was glad to be there and bring light to like the bipartisanship between Joe Biden and Bush. Like, it's just unbelievable. Like, Joe Biden condemned this guy 10 years ago and is not giving him an award. It's just...
doesn't make a damn
This makes no sense. He even had a son who died in Iraq. And it's like, you're giving this man who started this war where your son died an award. Like, what is... Like, I don't understand these people. I would never do that. It's like, what in the world can someone offer you for you to ever do something like that? Like, I don't get it. So to me, that was just like, I don't... Fuck both these parties, dude. And then people are talking about, all the neoliberals are like, Joe Biden is the hope of the Democratic Party in 2020. I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, you idiots, like, aren't even realizing that these people are the same party. Like, they're the same evil side of one coin. So for me, like, I was happy to show people, and I'm happy that like the work I'm doing is bringing light to this stuff for people around the world that care.
So can you talk about, so you guys were making noise in the national anthem.
Yeah.
And, you know, with the whole NFL, you know, the national anthem's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You better not do a damn thing because it's disrespecting the troops that
you
have.
Disrespecting the veterans.
Yeah, that you have veterans who are doing that. Can you talk about, I guess, the misleading information of people who don't understand what it means to be a veteran, especially a veteran that's gone through something, and this right to protest something that you don't believe in? Because I assume people who saw you doing this stuff would assume, oh, these guys are traitors.
Yeah.
And it's
definitely.
like, I've done more than you have
Yeah.
for this country and sacrifices that I've gone through.
Yeah.
And you're over here trying to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah. Fuck those people. That's why you do it anyway and spite them. One of my favorite things is to spite them, but like I'm just a troublemaker. Most of the things too, like a lot of people ask me like, why did you protest an award? Like that's rude. Like he was a president, and I was just like, yo, are you fucking retarded? Like first of all, like I've had some friends who I've known for years ask me, they were like, why did you do that? What did George Bush do? I'm like, bro, we aren't friends anymore. If you're like, legitimately, I'm not friends with these people anymore. They know who they are if they're ever going to listen to this. And I'm just like, nah, like we have issues, bro. Because first of all, if you have to ask me what did George Bush do, you got problems. Second of all, it's not about, stopping him from getting this award. People were like, you didn't stop him from getting an award. You didn't change anything. It's not about changing the fact that he got the award. He was going to get the award anyway. Look at who already got it. Tony Blair, Dick Cheney. The fuck? It's not about stopping, except for Muhammad Ali and Steven Spielberg. I like those guys. Mm-hmm. But like, look at her. This award already's been tainted, just like the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's not about stopping people from getting these awards. It's about showing people that a man like that got an award. Duh. Like, he sent people to die. A woman was out there in the cold saying, you killed my son, Mr. President. And then he like paints, veterans with missing legs that he sent to die, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump is president and he's like crawling out from under his rock, and he has like 1 million followers on Instagram and maybe Twitter. I don't know, I don't have Twitter, but like it's like, no, Bush, you can't come out like that, dude. You just can't act like everything's all good. And there are people here who are deeply affected that are going to say, hey.
Yeah, he's trying to deflect now. It wasn't me, it was Trump.
Yeah, he can't deflect. We remember. Yeah, even Donald Trump is nothing compared to Bush, dude. Donald Trump, at the end of the day, with all his racist like rhetoric and craziness, has done nothing compared to what Bush has done. Like, people fail to realize that we went into a war 9 months after Bush was president. And we are still in that war. So, you can say all you want about Trump. He's been president on 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. Nothing has happened so far. And even the North Korea thing, which was shocking, which is good. Like, I don't care what anybody says. George Bush will always be the most evil president, I think, ever. Probably the most evil person in my lifetime. He is nothing compared to Donald Trump. Even Donald Trump is like, this guy's a fucking asshole. Like, that's insane. So, for me, it's just like, you're failing to realize the point here, man, that Joe Biden, a guy who is the leader of the Democratic Party, is giving this man an award who did horrible, horrendous things to people at home and abroad. This is the society that you live in, that it says that we're going to award you if you do things like that. Because we already gave it to your other war criminal friends, like Blair and Cheney. So, to those people who are like, oh, I don't see the point in that, like, you're not paying attention. And they're also the same people who will probably say that you should stand for the anthem. First of all, I think anybody in the military is sick of the national anthem, because we had to do tons of standing for it, and tons of it just because we were told to. And we never really even asked why. We were just like, oh, it's national anthem, do it, because America. And like, all that shit. So fuck that. And second of all, if anybody really cared about the national anthem, those motherfuckers can go join the military. And they may, if they have a brain, will realize where we're coming from. But on the other hand, a lot of those people who say that it's disrespecting the troops, no, it's not. Because we live in a country where you can do that. And if we didn't live in a country where we could do that, it'd be North Korea or like some crazy fascist like dictatorship.
Execute you on the spot.
Yeah, where if you don't worship the flag, like, then you'll get executed. Like, no, we don't live in a society like that. And those people don't want a society like that. They condemn societies like that, but they're so dumb that they don't realize how they're like, supporting fascists, like, and nationalist rhetorics. And it's kind of sad because they don't even get it. Like, if you say like, oh, you're not supporting the veterans or the military by standing for the national anthem, but then you have a ton of veterans that are like, Colin Kaepernick is in his right to do that, and yet you ignore them.
And
you don't support the fucking veterans and troops.
And he's repeatedly said it was nothing to do with the
and
troops.
yeah, and it had nothing to do with it. Yeah, and they're just basically, the conservatives are just using veterans as props to negate what Colin Kaepernick is really trying to talk about. And it's just the classic thing that they always do constantly. It's always like, oh, well, it's because the veterans, and then like they always pull like Pat Tillman, and they're like, well, if Colin Kaepernick really cared about what happened in America or cared about our veterans, he would leave his millions of dollars and go and fight like Pat Tillman did. And it's like, yo, like, do you even know what Pat Tillman really went? You're familiar with the story, right? So it's like, these guys aren't even familiar, and like his family doesn't want you using his name. Stop. You don't respect the veterans. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like every post I saw, it was like, you don't respect the veterans. Like, they're saying it's okay, and you're saying, no, it's not okay, shut up. We only want you to say what we want you to say. And if you disagree, fuck you. You know what I mean? It's like, no. So you're basically saying that vets that agree with Colin Kaepernick are treacherous and are traitors. Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, no.
Some people wouldn't say that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like it's a whole hypocrisy. And it's like, you'll have somebody who's white condemn a person of color who was in the military just solely because they have the privilege and they think they can. You know, they are like, oh, I'm white, although this person may be a person of color but was in the military. My whiteness is still more powerful and important to them than their veteran status is. Because I've met some women who have been confronted by a ton of white males, women of color, who were like, you're a disgrace to the uniform. And like, what? You never even were in the military. Like, what are you talking about? But because it's a woman of color, and they think because they're a white male that they can talk down to them, that they're better than them, there's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what was that video of the I don't know if they were women. Well, they're women of color. I don't know if they're Hispanic or they were black, but like the couple that was yelling at them in the restaurant or whatever, like harassing them. Yeah, and it's like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
yeah, but it's these same people though that would say, oh, support the troops. You know what I mean? It's like they see a black person, it's like, oh. But then if they're in the military, it's like, oh, you're okay that you're in the military, but let's not forget, if a cop shot you, it's because you wore a hoodie. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what kind of society is that? Like, how could I like just can't be around people like that anymore, especially after the military and like going through the traumatization of neoconservatism. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I can't deal with neoliberalism or neoconservatism anymore. It's just like, I need all of it away. So for me, I think anybody who says otherwise about Colin Kaepernick is more of a favor of fascism than they are of the United States.
Can you talk about when you met that mother who said that about her son dying and how the U.S. treats people, veterans who come back from home, how that information is somehow lost in the whirlpool of, all the time. We have homeless vets. Yep. Apparently the average of veteran suicide is 22 a day. 22 a day. And I think we talked about the situation. Did I send you the video for it? No. I sent you the video for the Afghanistan war. The video about Phil DeFranco covered about the VA and how it's behind because of IT. And so it can't pay for veteran housing. It can't pay for veterans trying to go to school and stuff. And the paperwork is just too much for them to handle. So basically, people are getting evicted. People can't get their education done and whatnot. But yet we're sold this image that we take care of our own, basically, when they come back.
No, they don't. That's why that's the fucked up thing. It's like a lot of people join the military for the benefits, and yet that's the very thing that they're going to try to take from you when you come back from your deployment. So it's just like, I have a friend of mine who was like, oh, I only went in for the benefits. It's like, all right, well, what are you going to do, idiot, if you get sent to a fucking war zone and then come back and then they say, oh, your housing, your college, and your healthcare is going to take a while. Like, this shit happens all the time. I just met a Vietnam veteran at VOI or Veterans Organizing Institute in Phoenix. And in 1985, Ronald Reagan, I think that was the year, but whatever, sometime during Reagan's lunacy, he cut benefits to Vietnam veterans. And this was in the 80s. This was like not even 10 years after the war ended in 73. Not even 10 years he cut their benefits. This guy had to fight, and he didn't get his benefits back until like early 2000s or late 90s.
What?
Yeah. This was by Reagan, the same guy that was like, oh, our troops did nothing wrong in Vietnam. Our troops did, they were noble and they were good. And like, I'm a Republican and I just like the military when they fight and then I throw them away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of people that we have in office. And it's largely because a lot of these guys weren't military. A lot of these guys are from privilege, so they don't care about people anyway.
Yeah, at first I thought that was a requirement.
No, it's
to
not.
be a president. No,
it should be.
It's not. Yep.
We have had a lot of presidents, like fucking like Roosevelt, like not the one in the wheelchair. The other one was like pretty badass. Like he had his sons. Like, you're going to the military. Like everybody, like it was mandatory, and like every president up until Obama had some kind of military service.
Didn't W try and duck too?
But he was in the Guard.
He was in the Guard. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he found a way out of it because it's the Guard.
Right.
So, but he was still in the military. Obama, nothing. Trump, nothing. Well, Trump went to a military academy. So I guess that's something like ROTC. But Reagan didn't go. So yeah, some presidents have, some presidents haven't. And I think it's important. Like, how the fuck can you be the commander in chief and never even been in the military? Does that make any sense? Like, it's so funny because for me, like, whenever like I would think about something, like, my friend, he came back from Fort Benning and he was like, oh man, there was this drill sergeant that was like yelling at me and screaming. And I'm just like, haven't been through like BMT and people yelling. Like, now it's become kind of funny. So like now if like somebody in the military were to ever scream at me, I would just be like, you get outranked by Donald Trump. And that's just funny in of itself. It's like, I don't care how badass or how tough you think you are, you get outranked by a man like Trump.
Reality show.
Who
TV
never even went through any of the shit. Like, you can rip out my spine with your bare hands, but yet you get outranked by a man by Donald Trump.
It's kind of like,
oh, the military, man, it's crazy. It's wild.
But in closing, like, what are your plans next? What do you hope for the future, especially with About Face, and how can people support you or support the cause, I guess, for veterans who are suffering PTSD and, Veterans for Peace?
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's very, very important for people to pay attention to just war, because it's like, we're spending a lot of money every day on this shit that it's like not good, and I believe personally it's probably going to be the downfall of like this society, because it has been the downfall of other civilizations not that long ago, the USSR. But anyway, I think it's important for people to pay attention to things and be woke and do your own research and educate yourself and pay attention to organizations like About Face, who are doing a lot of really important work. Like, they got some stuff hopefully planned up for next year that should be good. Like, a lot of stuff is being more focused on like what's going on with the border, so hopefully we'll see what's going on down there. I'm sure you saw what just happened with a lot of the faith leaders and stuff. Yeah, some of our members were actually down there for that. It was great to see them down there with a lot of the faith leaders in solidarity. It was so powerful. So they're doing a lot of really amazing work, and they have this Drop the Mic campaign that they're doing, and everyone can go find it on GoFundMe. It's on the About Face website, and it's a tour that we're trying to get set up to, get another anti-war movement up and jumping. I think the time is now. I think I went to sleep with Obama, and I think it's like kind of waking up again with Trump, and it's like a new generation who are very, very tech savvy, and we have like a more powerful way of reaching people than we did like in 2004, 2008. Like, it's like we have more power now as people, and we're more interconnected. So I think now more than ever, it's important for people to like, you don't necessarily have to like get involved, but if you're like a civilian, like just to donate or to like, call your local politicians and just be cognizant of this stuff and realize that it's our tax money. It's like, you have to care because it's our money. Like, at the end of the year, every time we pay taxes, like, that's money going, just being wasted for nothing. Like something that could be going towards helping your children or like you. Like the $6 trillion we spend could have gone towards so much others. Like I can't even fathom how much money that is. That could have solved all of our problems, like education, healthcare, everything, homelessness, everything. And like you hear the amount of waste that was just in the military, we've all seen. Man, I'd say like just at VOI when we were having stories about this stuff, like I'd say within like 5-6 people, we probably saw a minimum of like $500 million in just waste. Just like on our own military experience. Like I've heard stories where like they were in like somewhere in like Iraq and like a tire would get blown out and they don't want to wait for like, you know, maintenance because they're in like a hot zone where they can be attacked. So they're like, fuck it, like just get in the next truck, burn this one so that way the enemy can't use any for parts. $300,000 vehicle just destroyed because they had a flat tire. It's like,
shit, what's the thing Allen Iverson did? He had a flat tire in his Lambo and he bought another one the next day.
Wow. Well, see, that's why he's in his, you know, situation, which the United States will be because we're on another level compared to Allen Iverson. Like, that's insane that he did that. That's not surprising, though, where he's at now.
I think that was him, pretty sure. He broke down on the highway, couldn't replace it or didn't want to replace it, so he just got another one.
Stupid. But I mean, you need to get like, you can't just go to like a regular place to get a Lambo tire, I'm sure, right? You gotta get it like specially made or something.
I guess.
Anyway,
I drive that car, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, they're doing a lot of really awesome work, so I recommend people to go check that out. And if you are a veteran and you just have like any, you know, leftist views, like you just are disillusioned with your military service in any way, it doesn't even have to be like something traumatic happened to you. It's just like you were there and you were like, yeah, you know what? I don't know how I feel about this. And you need people that you want to talk to and you want to reach out to people that understand. Like, look us up, man. Like, About Face is always looking forward to meeting other new veterans. Veterans for Peace is just, if you're over the age of a post 9/11 veteran, like, I highly recommend looking them up too. They're a great organization for just everybody in general. Because About Face is more of a post 9/11 group, so all the post 9/11 vets out there, check us out, and everybody be on the lookout for our campaign. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. I really appreciate all the organizations that have given me all the tools to be here and to do all the things that I'm doing, like About Face and Veterans for Peace and Veterans Organizing Institute. It's been one hell of a year, very, very transformative, and I'm looking forward to everything that's going to happen in 2019. So yeah, be on the lookout for what About Face is going to be doing, and go check us out on GoFundMe.
Awesome, Jamie. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
I wish you the best. We'll be linking up soon anyways.
Definitely.
And thank you all for checking us out, the Baltimore guys. If you like what you're listening to and watching, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to give you more great content. Take care, everyone.